Welcome to Bedhampton Church. Contact us at www.bedhampton.church. But for now, let's continue that journey with this input. You know, Jesus is consistent in going after the underrepresented and the missing people from his kingdom. I wonder if you've ever felt different, out of place, not one of the crowd, not someone who fits in easily. Well, if you have, then Jesus comes for you with mercy and compassion and love. How do I know that? Well, I know that because of the feeding of the 4,000, but we'll get onto that in a second. We're back into this historic biography we call Matthew for the next term. We're heading into chapters 16 and 17, and Jesus' relationship is going to hit rock bottom with the church leaders. Peter will declare that Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus himself will predict his own sacrificial death twice. And then we have the transfiguration and, of course, healings along the way. But first we need to finish off chapter 15 with a festival and a picnic. Now, I don't think they left their tents behind at this festival, so we're okay with that. But Jesus feeds the 4,000. Hold on a minute. That sounds a bit familiar, doesn't it? Didn't he just do that in chapter 14? Was it 5,000 or was it 4,000? Eh? Was it 7 loaves or 5 loaves? Was it 2 fish or a few fish? Well, the answer to the questions above are yes to all of them. It was. When we read the Bible, these scriptures that we declare we love so much, we read different genres, don't we? We heard Mike read Psalm 51, the poetry in that. We hear history as we read the Bible in the Old Testament and indeed in the New when we read about Acts. And of course, there are others as well. And when we come to the Gospels, we are reading historic biography. Not every single detail of Jesus' life is in there, but what we need to hear is in there. Now, it's possible, I don't know this, it's possible that Jesus fed the people that he taught every time he taught. That'd be great, I just pass some food around now, you know. So it's possible that he did it every time. But for some reason, both Matthew and Mark decide to record the 2 times of the 5,000 and the 4,000. I'm sure there are many reasons why they did that. But there was one reason that came to me this week, and I need a map to show you what that reason is. Galilee, as you can see, is dominated by the Great Lake. Now, if you think of Galilee a bit like the Lake District, only slightly warmer and dustier, then you've probably got a reasonable picture. Think of Windermere and the bustling of life around the lake itself, and the hills and the mountains disappearing into the background. Now think of that as being 10 times bigger, and you've got the rough layout of Galilee and the Sea of Galilee. Then, of course, you have the political area of Jesus' time. To the left or the west, you have God's people, Jesus' home. Indeed, you can see Nazareth on the far west. And then to the right, the east, are those people. The Golan Heights, the people who follow other gods. A dangerous territory to head into if you are willing to declare that there is but one true God. Now, we believe that the feeding of the 5,000 probably happened in Capernaum, just up there on the top left. What you might call the parish that Jesus lived in, maybe. He's in home territory there, feeding the 5,000. However, we believe that the feeding of the 4,000 probably happened somewhere near Bethsaida or the Golan Heights, when Jesus starts reaching out to those who aren't like him. Matthew and Mark's Gospel fill in enough information for this seeming to be accurate. And Jesus is reaching out to those who don't come from his context. We read, as we heard, great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others, and laid them at his feet, and he healed them. I just love the way it says it matter-of-factly. He healed them. The people were amazed when they saw the mute speaking, the crippled made well, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they praised the God of Israel. You see, these crowds are not believers or followers of the one true God. They felt different to the believers and followers of Jesus, out of place, not one of the Jesus crowd. And yet, when they turned to Jesus, they praised the God of Israel, the one God. Not Zeus, not Apollo, not any other god, not any god that they've worshipped their whole life. They turn to the God of Israel and they praise and worship him. Perhaps there's a lesson there for us. As Jesus turns from looking inwards to the Jewish nation and turns outwards to all nations of the world, our parallel, I think, is clear, isn't it? But before we name it, there's more for us to take on. Jesus continues, I have compassion for these people. They've already been with me for 3 days and have nothing to eat. And then those disciples, who are not always the brightest bunch in the world, are they? Say, where could we get enough bread in this remote place to feed such a crowd? Hold on a minute, guys. Let us flip back just 2 chapters. Remember the 5,000? Remember the few loaves? Remember how when you engage with Jesus, all things are possible. Certainly feeding the 5,000 or 4,000 in this case is nothing for Jesus. It's well within his grasp. But actually the point I think Jesus was making here is it's well within their grasp. That's the second point for the disciples to pick up on and learn. When you walk with Jesus and his Holy Spirit, all things are possible. In fact, Jesus said, didn't he, we will do greater things than him. And as they reach out to the people who are not here, the people that God has compassion on. This bit of Matthew comes at the right time for us as a church family. It's funny, isn't it, how God seems to do that sometimes. The reason I chose that psalm earlier on that Mike read so well is that as I read that during the week, a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't help but have compassion for those who over the last 18 months have been crying out to God to have mercy upon them. Now, they may not have known which God they were crying out to. They may not have had the words to use. But you know as well as I do, as you look around our nation and indeed the world right now, people are crying out, asking what the heck is going on? What is life really all about? And I thought that psalm, for me, summed it up. So our take home from the feeding of the 4,000 is not to have a big barbecue and just take a couple of chops with us to it. But our take home is actually, what is God asking us to do? The question for us as a family is, who is God wanting us to have mercy on in the areas that we live and work and play? Of course, our service time changes as we get used to them are just part of that, of reaching out to those who are not here. And indeed, Invitation Sunday, the 19th, is another one of those things. Who can we reach out to who is not here? Who perhaps even used to be here and isn't anymore? Who does God want to have mercy on? That's the question for us both as a church and personally this week. I said at the beginning, if you've ever felt out of place and strange in an environment like this, then Jesus has love and mercy and compassion for you, as he does for those who aren't here. But I guess the real question is, what are we going to do about it? You see, Jesus doesn't need us. He can bring revival in Bedhampton like that. But he chooses, as he did with the disciples, to work with us. So he doesn't need us, but he would rather work with us? What is our response to that? You have been listening to Bedhampton Church. Our prayer is that this helps you journey with Jesus and serve your community by sharing God's love and friendship. Subscribe and join us for more discussion at www.bedhampton.church. All material Creative Commons copyright. Contact us for more details.